I don't want to go a whole week without mentioning there's a genocide going on in Gaza. It's absolutely disgusting to see people queuing up for food and then being shot at. I could say a million things about it. There's nothing new to say. It's wrong, it's evil, it's disgusting. It has to be stopped. And I urge everyone to continue to raise their voices and do whatever they can to step up to the plate on that. In the meantime, I'm going to talk briefly about the arts industry now. There's quite an interesting new report out from the Scottish Trade Union Council which says that more than half of those working in the arts industry in Scotland have been subjected to harassment or bullying. And when they say more than half, what one assumes they mean is all of the women and quite a lot of the men. They also say that 69% of those working freelance in the arts have been subjected to late payment, and about a third have been not paid at all for freelance work. And yes, all of those things are true about me. In fact, to be honest, most of those things are true about me most weeks. And people say very helpful things like, you know, get in touch with Equity, get some legal advice, etc., etc. But the fact is that if I have to get legal advice to get a £150 invoice paid, the amount of time it takes me, even if people generously give me that legal advice for free, it quickly, like the value of doing so erodes and erodes. You know, you wait for somebody to call you back, you have to, you know, respond to what they've said and go, oh, I've tried that, and etc., etc. Oh, that wasn't an option. And the truth is that a lot of the time, the only way to deal with it is to go, I'm just going to ignore that, I'm just going to overlook that. People will always say, oh, I'll never work with those people again. But there would be not that many organisations left to work with if I really drew that hard of a line, not only about people who have behaved inappropriately around me, but also about people who've behaved inappropriately around people I know. And then, of course, let's not forget all the people who won't book me in the first place because they think I'm too strident and too outspoken and I might notice the nonsense they're getting up to, or I'm not alternative enough and I'm not quirky enough, or they've read some lie written about me by the right-wing press. It just isn't a world in which we can afford to, like, insist on the highest standards all the time and set these absolutely solid boundaries. I wish it was. And I super appreciate people who do things like sponsoring these videos, because you make it much more possible for me to draw those lines when I want to. I'm about to head up to the Edinburgh Fringe in August. I'm at the sort of early planning stages of that. I know lots of you will have encountered me for the first time at the Edinburgh Fringe. Just so you know, I won't be listed in the Edinburgh Fringe brochure or guide this year. That's because I've got a bunch of shows, and paying more than £300 per show to be listed in this big a font when we know that hardly anybody even reads those brochures anymore, it's just not worth it. The app they produce is just not worth it, and the support that they provide, I don't think it's worth it at all. In particular, I want to highlight that they have this Keep It Fringe fund where they provide funding for people doing worthwhile projects, people who deserve a bit of extra support. You will often up in Edinburgh see the Keep It Fringe supported by sticker on posters, and you'll see it on posters for well-established, straight, white, male acts doing shows that don't seem to be challenging anything very new or doing anything groundbreaking or controversial. Obviously, I am not in a position to read every single proposal that goes in or assess it. Quite possibly some of them are actually doing something terribly interesting and brave, but it does seem like if the money that they've got has been spent on 4-metre wide posters, I would argue that they didn't need support to come to the Fringe, because the cost of those posters is sort of similar to the cost of renting a flat in Edinburgh during the Fringe. So, you know, I applied to the fund this year, and I applied because I want to bring up my award-winning children's science show about evolution, revolution, and I think that teaching young people about important science that's often not taught in schools because it's considered controversial and because it can be upsetting to religious sponsors of these schools, I think it's really, really important, and I think it's something that we absolutely should be doing. And I thought this is exactly the sort of thing that the Keep It Fringe Fund should be there for, to help me. I've never performed a children's show in Edinburgh before, so how on earth am I going to let all these young people know that this show is going on? How am I going to find this new audience of parents with young kids? Perfect. Dream candidate. Nah, not a bean. Not a bean, just ignored, glossed over. And this is the third year running that I've been turned down for any sort of funding. So I don't really see why I should hand my hard-earned money over to them when they're not doing their job. And I think it's despicable that they're not doing their job. I also think that they can be much, much, much more active in stepping up to the plate on these other issues, on bullying, harassment, the way that people are treated, on people not getting paid, on people not getting paid on time, all of this stuff. There's loads that the Fringe Society should be doing, and one of the things they should be doing is creating a forum where we have an opportunity to give feedback about venues. And they're afraid to do it because they want to be friends with the venues, and they know that a load of performers would step up and say, I had a really bad experience with some of the big, expensive venues. And they don't want to be the ones hosting that platform and making the big venues look bad. But the fact is that some of the big venues in Edinburgh are bad. They rip people off, they charge a fortune, they promise people, oh, you could make a lot of money, and they know that that's a misleading thing when they tell people that. And they then don't have very high-tech specifications. They mess people around. I was once fined like about £500 by a big venue for not having the right font on my flyers. It's a long time ago, so I won't dig right into it. But that sort of thing I could be sharing with people who are thinking about going to that venue, and the Fringe Society could facilitate it. You could put up there if you'd experienced bullying or harassment. It's not good enough, and it's in an environment where the arts are being squeezed in every direction. And in particular, artists who want to say something important, whether it's about evolution or the situation in Palestine right now. Those artists are being squeezed by the social media companies and squeezed by the big funders and all of that stuff. And we have to push back against it. And I think it's gutting that the Fringe Society aren't doing it. And I also think that lots of other organisations can be part of it. And I appreciate those of you who helped me to do my bit in pushing back against it.
Increasingly, the mainstream media is terrible at informing the public of what is really going on. I'm only able to make these videos because people are generous enough to sponsor me making them, and if you're able to be a part of that, I would hugely appreciate it. It can cost as little as $1 a month, and you'll get loads of fun bonus content and lots of extras from me and my undying gratitude. I also massively appreciate it if you're able to like, share these videos and let people out there know what's going on.